Thanks so much for participating in these alumni interviews. The soon-to-be graduating ME and IE students are greatly looking forward to hearing about your post-undergraduate experiences and any insights you can share on early career matters. If you could just introduce yourself, where are you currently working? What position do you hold?
My name is Liran Friedman. I work as a technical sales engineer at Vibrodynamics, a small company. We make wire rope isolators. Probably don't know what those are. I had no clue what they are before. Yeah, I studied mechanical engineering at UIC, graduated this last semester. So I've been working at this company for just about 6 months now.
My name is Dominique. I just graduated in May. I am working at Siska Hennessy, which is an MEP firm. So I'm doing all the HVAC designing, just in like data centers, tenant build outs, all that good stuff.
My name is Arthur Correa. I was a part of the graduating class last semester, so I was a May graduate. I'm currently working at Northrop Grumman as a systems engineer, and I've been working here since July, so I've been here for about 4 months now.
Yeah, I'm Kobe Zaguri. I just graduated back in May with my bachelor's in mechanical engineering at UIC. I am now a global service and support engineer at Abbott Molecular.
I started at UIC in 2011, graduated in 2016 with my bachelor's in industrial engineering. After that, I did go to graduate school in industrial engineering at UIC for a master's degree, and I finished that around 2018. Since 2018, I've been at a company called Deloitte. They do management consulting. I work in the analytics group there on a lot of forensic type, investigation type projects with AI and all those cool analytics things that we hear about. I've been here for about 2 years. I'm currently a senior analytics consultant.
I'm Daniel. I graduated in December of 2019. I graduated directly into the UIC Mechanical Engineering Graduate School program. I'm part of a program that the university has with the Spraying Systems Company where I do my research assistantship as a research engineer at the company. And they also pay for my degree, my tuition, my thesis work. They pay for my experiments. And it's a really great opportunity to go to grad school and get professional working experience at the same time.
I graduated last May with my bachelor's in mechanical engineering, and I got a minor in electrical engineering as well. And that's part of the reason why I decided to return to UIC, because I really loved what I was doing in electrical engineering. And during my first semester, I've been exploring image processing, and I just really love it. So I'm glad that I got the opportunity to come back.
So my name's Conrad. I graduated from UIC like this August. Technically, was my graduation. Now I'm employed at Acuity Brands Lighting in Des Plaines as a design engineer.
Do you have a favorite memory of your time at UIC that you want to share, or just anything general about college that you kind of look back fondly on?
Finding students and knowing you could go to them for help and studying with other people and working on projects and just generally collaborating with the people at UIC was very cool.
I remember going to a similar talk like this where we had industry people come in and like talk to us on a panel. It was just so cool listening to people talk about careers and like what they're doing after UIC, something that was very motivating to me because I wanted to be there one day. But in addition to that, I don't think you should ever want to be like others because you're putting a limit on yourself. And I say this to like all my cousins and siblings, even though like I was inspired and I think that's a cool thing I went through at UIC, I think it should still just be like a starting point. At the time, I thought it was, oh my gosh, that's awesome. I want to do that. But then now looking back, that was just a little thing of what everyone can do after graduation. And just a couple years after graduation, you realize what you thought was really cool. There's so much more out there. And it just kind of shows you a glimpse of like what's out there. So I thought that was a very fond memory I had.
Something that I've been struggling with ever since I started is that lack of interaction, especially now that all of my undergrad friends are gone. There's a new cohort, and I can't really meet them in person. I really do miss that interaction because in undergrad, I felt like we had this community where we would all take the same classes, we would share experiences, we grew our network that way as well. But right now, I feel like I don't really have that. And I feel like I'm doing good, but it's difficult when you're trying to potentially try new things in a different college as well.
Definitely just miss going to class and having like a schedule of like learning stuff because right now there's an EDT program through my work. So it's just basically a year of training. But I don't have that, I guess, like drive to really pay attention because I don't have to get like an assessment done afterwards. I definitely miss learning and I miss Argo T a lot.
So one of my favorite memories at UIC would be probably around 11 or 12 at midnight, just going up to SEL and kind of looking over the city and the reflection of from the top story and just looking at the really nice views. So I really miss that part about UIC. So
it's making the transition. I started at community college, so moving to a big university, it was nice to get into those like more kind of hardcore engineering classes that really focus on things, like a lot of times in physics, it's like if you learn about thermodynamics, they'll be like, oh yeah, but we'll touch that in another class, and so it's kind of cool to get to that other class and actually get to learn all that stuff.
The stuff they teach you in classes like 499, I use more frequently than all my other classes. How do you learn to learn? How do you continuously learn? How do you use entrepreneurial skills to build yourself in the workplace and sell yourself in the workplace or be an entrepreneur? Like all these little things we learned in that class, how to build a resume to make them want you. All these things are still so much more applicable to me than a lot of the materials I learned in class. We did a web crawler kind of job search for a couple papers that we worked on. And some of the top skills were communication. And when we looked at the curriculum right now for not just MIE, but a lot of the engineering department, we don't have a communications class for engineering students. We don't have a speech class for engineering students. However, a lot of these job postings were referencing presentations, communication, and all these things that might not be covered in engineering classes, but it's covered in 499.
Okay, so I also want to touch on the 5 modules from the seminar. So I'll just remind you the modules. They're the job search, career excellence, continuous learning, financial planning, and entrepreneurship. So we'll start with job search. So how was the job search process for you? How did you end up finding your job? What was challenging parts of it, whether it's just the general search for job opportunities, maybe applying, interviewing, maybe accepting that final job offer?
What ended up happening for me is I had an internship over the summer prior to my senior year, and I had actually received a full-time job offer from them. Going into senior year during the fall career fair, I decided to go to the career fair and talk to Northrop Grumman, and I actually recognized a lot of the recruiters that had seen give talks at some of my student organizations that I was a part of. So it was a really good conversation, and they actually invited me over for an interview. And, after interviewing with them and, considering both job offers, I ended up just kind of going down to the counseling center and talking to them about, what was really on the table and deciding from there objectively, like which would be the better offer, and then factoring in, kind of what I was interested in.
Hardest part is like just filling out constant applications. I might have applied to over 100 jobs the last 2 semesters and maybe heard back from like 5 of them, and then only got interviews for like 2 or 3. So it's pretty hard to like put in all this time and effort to just apply to all these jobs and then not hear back from like the vast majority of them. So being resilient there, just keep going is, I guess, the best advice I could give for that. And then, tailoring your resume as much as it kind of sucks, like to have to change it for every application, finding those keywords in the job description and altering it on your resume will really put you ahead of some other people.
I got my current full-time job from an internship. I got my first internship, I think, after my 3rd year of undergrad, and I was at a manufacturing firm, like a factory basically. And I was looking on Indeed, on everything. It was close by, and I got the job on the spot. But soon after, I realized, like after that internship, I did not want to be in manufacturing. I tried to shift it a little bit into finance and investment banking. It was a little difficult because it was just so different. I would just apply to internships a lot. Like every day I'd have multiple applications. I would just dedicate some of my time to applying to internships. Anything that sounded interesting. I didn't care about the company or anything. I just wanted the skills, and eventually someone interviewed me and I got the position. And once I had one internship that I found interesting, I was able to kind of keep getting more internships. Eventually my last internship, which was at my current company, they hired me full-time. Figuring out what you want through trial and error, and then just being very, very persistent, understanding that you might send out 100 applications and only get 1 interview. And that's very normal.
I got pretty lucky. I interned with this company, so I already had a foot in the door. I interviewed for this company in April. They said that they have a 45-day hold on hiring. And that 45 days turned into, a couple months and whatever. But eventually they started hiring people again. So I got to get on board with them. In the meantime, I was just applying to a lot of places. And you just get rejected a whole lot and kind of got used to that. Some recruiters would come to you, and a lot of those opportunities I'd kind of get down the interview path a little bit, and then they'd be like, no. Some jobs reply 2 months later that they're not interested. So it's definitely hard. It was pretty easy for me because I internet at this company, so I had a foot in the door. I also knew what the culture was like and what the people were like there and stuff. So I knew it was a place that I wanted to work at. So it's kind of easy to accept that offer once it came. And also it was the only offer I had. It's pretty tough. I have friends who've submitted over 100 job applications. And so you kind of have to keep your head in the right place and not let it get you down too much. It's happening to everyone. That's just the way it is. And you just have to keep putting yourself out there and not let it get to you that all these companies are saying no.
I think I was actually very fortunate where, I met Vibrodynamics at the career fair at UIC actually, so I'd highly encourage you to go to the career fairs. I personally think you should always apply to the job before you even go talk to them at the booth. And I always took that approach, and it always helped me because when you kind of give that elevator pitch, once you've already applied, they're like, oh, I kind of seen your name already, and they already recognize you. And I think it really gives you a boost because when I, for example, talked to the guy from Vibrodynamics, he already saw my resume, he already knew about me, which I think really gave me leverage there. And I had the interview, and I did get the job, so it turned out well. The company actually reached out and they said that they were stopping hiring due to COVID. So I did get that concern of, what's going to happen? What if they don't want to hire at all? But then they resumed that and told me I was going to be hired. As far as starting the job, there wasn't much of a delay at all. But it was just like a 2 months period when I was unsure of what's going to happen.
I actually got my job. It was just a continuation of my internships. I continued there throughout the school semesters, and then I just started, I think, like 2 months later than I was supposed to. So I kind of just already had my job lined up. But I do have a lot of friends that they're kind of struggling finding jobs. It's kind of hard to get them to feel like because I relate to them. I've gone through getting internships and they're very hard to get sometimes. But I know a lot of things that are really pushing them more is they want a job, but they've also already taken the FE, so the Fundamentals of Engineering exam, which I don't know if it's really required in each, field for mechanical engineering, but I know for HVAC and energy and everything, they really push for it. So I think it's important, definitely push to go through interviews. I know the UIC Engineering Career Center, I believe, has a bunch of mock interviews you can do, and it's a really good website to use. A lot of my friends have been using that to help them polish their resume and everything. But I definitely would suggest doing the FE exam. It's honestly, if you're graduating right now, you won't have to study much because it's just everything you've learned. Maybe just grab a study book, do some practice problems or practice. I kind of knew halfway through my internship that they were going to offer me a job because they really liked me, and they kept dropping hints of next year when you're here, you got to do this. So I was like, well, I like the company. It's a really good company. They care about their employees, and there's a year of learning. And I was like, well, I'm going to love that because I actually get to learn the field that I'm going into instead of just kind of being dropped into it. So I kind of just stuck with them, which I don't know if I'd suggest that because I've always been told the company's going to do what's best for the company, not what's best for you. So definitely keep yourself in interest and not necessarily the company.
3 companies actually interviewed me. One of them, it was right after the interview, they called me and I was like, that didn't go well. Yeah, they're like, we're going to go with someone else. And I'm like, okay. So that's fine. It's never fun. But I mean, if that happens, it's honestly, you're just probably not the best fit for the role too. And, it's not a bad thing. You probably wouldn't have liked the job anyway.
I knew that I wanted to go to graduate school. I wanted an even higher level of education than the bachelor's degree for a long time. And it was my personal connection with Dr. Yarn who put me in contact with Dr. Mashayak that gave me this opportunity. I worked as an undergraduate research assistant in Dr. Yarn's labs. I got along really well with Dr. Yarn. He really liked me. Building that relationship with him, I asked if I could do an undergraduate internship in his lab, and he agreed. I got credit hours for it. I wrote a paper. I actually have a publication under my name about electrostatic atomization because of the experimental work that I was doing then. And I was told about this opportunity that they have with the Spraying Systems company. The university likes it a lot because it's a really good opportunity to give engineers access to professional level engineering.
Yes, they really allow you to explore in other areas. And that's something that I really, really like because I felt like in undergrad, everything was fairly structured and it's good. But here I love the fact that they let us explore in other areas and really expand your knowledge because I feel like now I have other tools that I can bring into a company. I feel like I'm becoming a lot more marketable. I've been interning with the company since 2018, and I've been going back. And fortunately, in 2020, they still continued their internship. I did get a full-time offer, but I really just wanted to explore more things than I did in undergrad. So that's why I asked them if it would be okay if I could explore maybe a graduate degree. And they were fine with it, and they just extended me to an intern again for 2021.
We've been hiring a ton of people because of COVID. Our production has just gone insane. Like as soon as I started, I mean, I got hired here in March, but I didn't start till May when I graduated. They called me and asked if I could start as soon as possible because we needed people to travel a lot. And so they needed everybody in the field installing more testing equipment.
Moving into career excellence, I don't know, what's a typical day like for you? What's your favorite aspect of work right now?
I get to be very creative now, more so than at school. So at UIC, we didn't have too many design-oriented classes in comparison to my job, where I'm spending basically 8 hours a day just designing. We have to get a COVID-related product out. So there's kind of a push to get it out as soon as possible. And I was tossed into this group, and I get to work with a bunch of engineers, come up with ideas, solutions to problems we're having. There's a whole lot of constraints and a whole lot of requirements from upper management and stuff. And I just get to work with, a group of engineers and try to figure out this problem. There's some testing stuff, but I get to decide what tests I need and get to decide what the results mean and kind of go through that process. So that's been also pretty cool. And it's cool to see stuff, you've learned at school apply to your job.
Working for such a small company is such a great thing for me because I get to really do so many different things. My main job is to, interact with customers, do technical analysis, help them with any support that they need with our product, and essentially get them to buy our product at the end goal, right? But since, as I mentioned before, it's such a small company, I get to also do the production stuff, and I get to do some product testing and product design occasionally. A typical day kind of depends throughout the week. One day of the week, for example, when I'm working from home, I was working on doing technical analysis for a certain application for a customer. So I was pretty much spending the majority of my day doing that and running through the analysis. And today, for example, I'm now in the shop in the back, putting a test together, setting that all up, and I'll be doing the testing later today. So there's a really nice balance between, working with your hands, doing testing, working with the customer, talking to the customer during calls and meetings. It's really nice to have that balance, because I think I would get bored doing the same thing every day. If I had to do analysis every day, I'd probably go crazy. And I get to just learn so much at the same time because there's so many different things.
My workday right now does not look that different due to COVID. However, a lot of people's workdays have shifted significantly to working remote or working from home. For me, it's always kind of been like that unless I'm traveling. Pre-COVID, it'd either be work from home or I'd be traveling Monday through Thursday to different sites around the country. Right now, we have a few calls to make sure that we're meeting client expectations, but then I also have a fairly technical role. Maybe about 25% of my day is coding, 25% of my day is figuring out what to code and how to code it. And then the other half of the day is making sure that what we're making technically can be shared with others that might not understand the technical aspects. So that's kind of how my day is structured, very much like every day is an engineering project. How do we solve this? Let's solve it. And how do we share what we found? We're a consulting firm, the largest consulting firm in the world. With that, you have to be able to communicate, like, what did you do? Why are we paying you? You have to show us like what you did and explain it.
Right now, since I'm still relatively new, I don't really get projects myself, but I'm kind of just assisting. There's mechanical leads for each project, so they'll give me a list of things to do in order. So I start getting familiar of how to go through the list of doing a project by myself. First, you start out with figuring out the airflows for each room, then you do all the calculations, not by hand, all through calculators, but you find out what machines you should use, and then you design the space that's used there. But really it's just designing the space, and then I check back in with the lead mechanicals and they kind of look over my work.
I guess the favorite aspect of my work is seeing the end customer and seeing kind of what the work does. So we focus on platforms that help protect a lot of the helicopters or jets that you see flying around. A typical day for me, just coming in and running tests and determining whatever the team needs for them, kind of just reporting that off and handing that off. I've been in the office most of the days, but I would say maybe 10% of the time I can work from home.
We have a shared email of all the instruments. We have about 50 or 60 really big molecular diagnostics machines here on site, and we'll fix them if they have issues or help solve like software issues, things like that. The next level of like a field service engineer, so it's closely related to like a field service where you work with your hands a lot and get in the field, but we're kind of the experts, I guess. So we help assist everybody else in the field and around the world. Yesterday I got a call and I went to Indiana for the day. I've gone all over the country, taken like 30 something flights since I started here in May.
I've taken 2 or 3 courses every semester. My research is actually, it's an experiment. I'm designing a system to map the topology of a spray onto a surface. And I'm doing that so that I can measure the effects of changing the electrical field through this surface to manipulate the distribution and the height differences in electrically sprayed fluid. And over the summer, I actually just go straight into working full-time for the spraying systems company as a research engineer.
I mean, it depends on how long you want to take with a master's, but usually it's 4 semesters. So this whole year might be online. And that means that if we are potentially back on campus next year, that's only kind of 2 semesters to build my network. But I think I also have to figure out ways to do it virtually, like interacting with other professors and whatnot. And that is something that I definitely recommend to people. I'm working on it right now because I don't know what I want to really specialize in my master's. I really, really am enjoying signal processing, and it might be something that I might want to switch to in the workplace. The transition is pretty hard, but I feel like I've found myself having to find ways to potentially talk to people and maybe see if I can find maybe what I want to specialize in and what that would entail.
Does your company have a support structure in terms of goal setting or mentorship?
We set goals with our supervisors for the next year. So we go kind of in depth of like what we want to hit. They have it where you do weekly seminars with people throughout the company. EDT Buddies, she actually teaches me a lot. Once or twice a week, we'll hop on a meeting and she'll just go over something that I either didn't understand or just something that will help me for the future. So they definitely care about mentorship and getting you to like succeed in every single spot possible.
So they do have a formal mentorship program that they offer to new hires, which a lot of new hires take advantage of. In my situation, I found an informal mentor through my commute. So I've kind of been going over my career plans with them and kind of developing myself into what the next steps would be. So overall, I would say my next plan in the 3 to 5 years would be just try and do some different types of rotations within the engineering department and see what is it that I specifically like to do, whether that be, right now I'm currently doing systems. Maybe I would like more of a software role. Overall, my career plan right now is to just soak up as much as I can from, the different types of work that I'm assigned. So for a lot of new hires, they'll either do a direct hire or they'll do a rotational program hire. So it's something they unwrapped a couple of years ago to start getting a lot of the new college grads that kind of experience. So typically, I think if you have over 5 years of experience, then you wouldn't be eligible for the rotational program.
That's something I would highly recommend everybody to do when they start a new job, is especially if it's like for a company you want to stay at, negotiate your starting wage or develop something. So I started here as a associate level engineer. I negotiated a plan with my manager at the time. We developed a plan where it's like after 3 or 4 months, we will reevaluate myself. And, if I do well enough, if I exceed or meet the expectations, then we could bump me up to that next level of an engineer. And so actually it was like last month it happened. So when you get the offer letter, don't be afraid to negotiate, because like they're not going to reject the offer letter. So I didn't want to be like, oh, can you pay this instead? And they're going to be like, how dare you? Like, we're going with someone else now. Like that, they don't do that. I would definitely try and negotiate like anything you can, like whether it's salary, vacation days, personal holidays. If you can't, like if that's the offer and that's it, then definitely meet with your manager like right away and set concrete goals so that you can meet them and have evidence saying like, I think I deserve this like promotion or raise or whatever. It helps a lot to have just people to talk to. I mean, even not at work, just in school too. Like I had plenty of mentors throughout my college career and they helped tremendously. And there's so many programs and things you don't even realize are available, or resources.
Our company, and I'm sure a lot of other companies do this, they're so focused on continuing education. We actually have a requirement that every year we have to have at least 40 hours of continued education hours. And it can't be just like reading a book. You actually have to have them certified and everything. One of my short-term goals for right now is I just finished a certification we have to have one of a set number of certifications in order to become a manager. Some people have a CPA, but a lot of people aren't accountants. They get other certifications. So I have an IBM Watson certification now. That was one of my short-term goals over the summer that I was able to achieve. That helped satisfy my 40 hours, but then also shows how companies like ours, but then a lot of other companies are so focused on continuing education, but then also that career excellence and moving forward. We have mentors or coaches that help with our career progression that are like a static person that doesn't change. Those are significantly higher levels than us, like managers or senior managers or partners. But then we also have someone that's at our level that's been here a little longer that helps show us the ropes. Someone maybe closer to a mentor we call buddy. We are mentors ourselves. After your first year, you're assigned someone that started recently and you mentor them. If they have any questions, you help them. I've had 2 mentees and I have like a buddy that's around my level. And then I have a coach who's a senior manager as well. So we get a lot of coaching and help. These are just the official ones. We have so many unofficial mentors, but these are the ones that they give us officially. Like it's written down somewhere that they're our buddies and mentors.
They have a lot of employee resource groups. So I also want to get into the habit of speaking with some of their organizations, just because they do have like these mentorship programs for people that have been in the workplace longer than some of the new incoming people. So I think I could really benefit from that, because that's how you can learn all the ins and outs of the company. And that's how you can potentially see what other people did and see if that's something you want to do.
I kind of have an engineer that I'm working closely with. He's providing me with projects and kind of guidance with those projects. So somewhat a mentor, not necessarily labeled a mentor, but I have someone there that's kind of guiding me through everything. So it's very comforting. There haven't been any, situations where I was completely lost and I didn't know who to talk to. So honestly, with it being remote, it's way easier to just type a, Microsoft Teams message to this guy, and then he just responds back. You don't have to go to anyone's office or anything. It's kind of quick and easy, and you get your answer, and it's pretty low stress. So for new hires, a year down the line, there's going to be performance reviews and stuff like that.
We had kind of a training period right when we started, of course, to learn the product and everything. And we kind of do training as we go as well. Occasionally we'll have presentations. So my engineering director, so I think I'm very, very fortunate that my boss is incredibly smart and talented. I mean, he just really knows his stuff and he's always willing to help. Always, like anytime I step into his office, I can ask engineering questions, even kind of non-engineering related questions, just about career path and things of that nature. So I think I'm lucky where I have a great mentor there. He really understands the balance of like work and life balance and all of those things. Just such a great person overall to have as your boss. I guess I'm very lucky there. I know that not everyone can say that, so I'm very fortunate there.
Talking about continuous learning a little bit, are you considering graduate studies at any point, whether master's or MBA? And if so, does your employer support it?
So thankfully here at Northrop Grumman, they do support continuous learning, so long as it meets the program needs. When I first came in, I sat down and I talked with my manager and I let him know that I'd be interested in pursuing graduate school, and he gave me all the information I needed to know about programs and what's available to Northrop Grumman employees, whether that be an internal graduate school program or an external one. So I did decide to pursue a master's in systems engineering. Thankfully, Northrop they do offer a stipend for students to go towards tuition, so long as you stay with the company for up to 2 years after the last distribution of it. Yeah, I actually just finished up my application a couple of weeks ago, so I'm waiting to hear back on the results.
And as far as continuous learning, I think I might want to get an MBA at some point, and I definitely want to continue learning more. My younger self has always wanted to kind of be a college professor, even maybe, and I've always enjoyed kind of teaching and helping people. I'm always happy when people would come to me at school for any sort of academic help. And I was a TA at Harper College, so I really enjoyed that position. It was a lot of fun. So I definitely see myself getting more education, whether it's engineering. Maybe I've always wanted maybe even a PhD in physics. I always love kind of diving into the theories and everything like that. So 100% at some point in my life, hopefully some more school. Going back to school is also kind of personality, how you are. And I can definitely see it being harder. I mean, you just lose that momentum of learning. It's definitely a different atmosphere working compared to always learning. So.
And giving HVAC a shot, so far it's okay. I don't know if I end up hating what I'm doing, I'm definitely going to go back to school. Honestly, don't know what I'll go into. Probably something more mathematics, maybe being a professor. I'm not really sure.
An MBA might happen. down the line. I think I would enjoy being in a management position, looking kind of far ahead. So yeah, my boss did mention that, you know, he wants to hire someone internally as a manager for this specific team down the line, rather than getting someone externally.
So as an undergrad, I think in my 4th year, I asked Professor Hushang Darabi if I could get involved with undergraduate research in his lab. So I was his undergraduate researcher for a year. I helped with a couple journal publications I actually got put on as an undergrad. So that was really cool. And then it kind of just made sense for me to continue into graduate school with him. I got involved in that undergrad research, rolled it into graduate studies, worked in his lab as a TA, RA, and it just made sense for me to continue learning because I just thought that I needed a little bit more time in academics. And I mean, I wish I could stay and keep going and could have gotten a PhD. I know when to stop because it takes a special person to keep going. And if that's you guys, go for it. I just couldn't do it. But it made complete sense for me to go into MS. I got hired at a higher rate. A lot of people come into a company like Deloitte as an analyst. I came in at a slightly higher level, at that slightly higher pay. They have higher expectations from you. You're given more interesting roles because you have a little bit more credibility or education or experience through like your research. And do you want to do a PhD or do you want to do an MBA? Like, do you want to take a completely different route, which I also recommend highly for engineering students. If you want some business soft skills, maybe get an MBA.
Now, a lot of people have told me that they have like a huge tuition reimbursement program because I need to see what I want to do with it as well. Maybe down the line, I do want to get an MBA because I might want to transition potentially like into a leadership role. So maybe that'll help me just because the more experience that you have academically, it doesn't really hurt you when you go on to that, like the professional world. So I might get an MBA with my company because I do want to start working and seeing kind of what I like. Right now, I decided that I wanted to settle into a technical role. So that's why for me, it was very important to try the electrical engineering aspect of it because since I interned so much with that company, I started taking on electrical roles and that's how I decided to get my minor. And I just thoroughly enjoyed what I did. So that's why I kind of decided, let me specialize in something potentially that has to do with electrical engineering. But then after that, I do want to settle in, spend some years in a technical role, and then potentially discuss maybe with a manager or something, just taking on an MBA.
Abbott actually, they contribute $10,000 every year to any graduate program that you want to do. If you're like a bachelor student, they'll contribute $7,500. So I'm actually starting my master's in the spring. So it's going to be online for engineering management at Arizona State University. So I'll take like 1 or 2 classes at a time and just go through it at my own pace. That's really important for me with travel and my crazy schedule, you know, that I have that flexibility.
Is there anything then in like the daily work that allows you to kind of stay up to speed with cutting edge innovations in your field as a part of your work?
I think it's really important to learn how to utilize the internet. Because me in my job now, I use the internet every day to look up new information, how to do new things, because that's kind of my teacher as far as doing new projects. So I would kind of encourage getting really comfortable with forums for engineering, SolidWorks forums, all of those things, because they can be extremely helpful. Learning how to learn material, because that's what I think people always say, why am I learning this? Why am I this? And I don't think that's as important where you learn the skill of gathering that new information. Because once you're working, you have so much new information and there's not somebody to go to necessarily to just be like, you know, what's this, what's that? So it's learning how to find all those new information. If you have a certain error in SolidWorks or how to do a certain analysis, you know, you got to learn, kind of have those skills of being able to find it all online, you know?
I guess I'm kind of learning more about the systems mindset of product development. You know, in senior design, when you're given tasks like, okay, establish the design requirements, establish the criteria for success. I noticed that you do a lot of similar things in industries. They have more specific names. Recently, I was working on like verification requirements and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different aspects that I learned in school that I'm seeing here in the workplace. They just take a different form. And I think that varies across, you know, whichever industry you decide to go into.
We're doing stuff with ultraviolet light. I get to learn a lot about that. And there's a whole lot of manufacturing information out there that I can gather from people there. And I also research it on my own. Whatever design I come up with, we have to make it. It's way different in a company where you can't just be like, yeah, we 3D printed it, right? You can't just ship out 3D printed parts. So you have to go pretty in depth with the manufacturing knowledge.
I'm honestly learning so much every single, like even just this morning, I spent like 2 hours with this software just trying to figure out how it works. And I kind of did learn how to figure it out. So that was great. So it's always learning, always a new product and new theories about vibration and things of that nature. And customers will come to us with totally new standards and different inputs. And I mean, we just have to learn what they are because we might have not even seen them before. So it's our job to kind of, break it down.
I take notes on a lot of things, so that way I have references. It's more important that you know where to find information that you need rather than like memorizing all of it, because it's if you don't use it, then you'll forget it. But if you know where to find it, then you can always refer to it. And, as a mechanical engineer, I never pictured myself ending up working on molecular diagnostics machinery, Yeah, a lot of programming I've been doing. I was never good at code during school. MATLAB and Python. So MATLAB I know decently well. We use CLI commands. It's like a Linux type software that the computer uses on the instrument. So that controls all the robotics. So we use like single line commands to move things around and have different subsystems perform what we need them to. And now we actually take in environmental factors like air resistance is a thing. Things like that, so it's cool. The writing machine scripts, executing those and making sure that they work correctly. A lot of troubleshooting, a lot of the theory that we learn is really applicable in troubleshooting. Knowing how things work is most important to being able to fix something.
Since I'm 6 months out of school now, I've kind of been starting to study for the FE. After I finish that, I'm going to go for my PE. So I know that will be a lot of studying and a lot of learning. So I'm extremely looking forward to that, but right now I got to deal with the FE. I think it's good because you learn more and you get to actually see what you know. That way you can work on what you don't know throughout the time you're working. They told me before I even started interning that it would be taking your FE and then your PE, but at the time I had no idea what it was. I Googled it and I was like, oh, okay, fundamentals of engineering, got it.
Since I was a member of Pi Tau Sigma, the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. So that is something that I want to continue to be affiliated with, since they've really helped me out during undergrad and right now as well. Participate mainly like in their general body meeting. For me, that was a great way to build community. And even during these times, I think it's good to jump on a Zoom meeting with them and then just go through just the normal day and see that they're going through the same thing as well. And even just like offering advice and whatnot.
A specific question here now, financial planning. Do you remember the financial plan in 499? Is it something that, whether it's that plan or a different one, that you've continued on using as like something important as a personal financial plan?
Once I started getting my apartment and my food costs and my income set up, I actually went back and I edited the financial plan. I noticed that, okay, I was spending a little bit more money on stuff that I would need for my apartment versus something else. So I kind of just made a couple of adjustments to the financial plan, but I do stick to it.
I actually really liked that project. I thought it was really good. It was really cool how it automatically showed you like, oh, you have a terrible idea of how much money you're going to be spending on, X, Y, and Z thing. Once like many of your students, are going to be moving out, living on their own with professional engineering level salaries. I think it does make a lot of sense for people to use that.
Still using it, especially right now. I did have an internship, but it was cut short just due to funding in our department. I worked like 6 weeks and I had to save up that money. And then I'm a full-time student, so I don't have a job right now. So I had to really adjust my spreadsheet and see what am I going to pay every month? Like how much of this money am I going to use to pay my car insurance, to just pay other expenses, since a lot of like my car payments come at the start of the school year. So I've been keeping a budget because I worked less, I made less money. So I need to find a way to spread it out so that I can use it. But that really did help out.
Spreadsheet's really good. And I redid the whole project basically. And it was a lot easier now that I had all the values. I kind of knew what situation I was in. The numbers were more tangible. And I've looked for other ones too. And I have not found one that I liked as much as the one we got in 499. So I've actually been using that spreadsheet and it's like filled out fully with all of my expenses and income. And it was super helpful. I did a ton more research on personal finances beyond what we did in 499.
I didn't grow up with a ton of money, so I kind of have like the habit of shopping the sale, being wise with spending my money. I haven't really used any planners or anything, but I definitely do keep in mind like how much I'm spending a week on certain stuff. So if I spend a ton on groceries, I'm like, maybe I should stop doing that. Or it's just more like mentally keeping track of stuff, but not necessarily using like a planner or anything.
Yeah, I have like an Excel sheet that I use. It's just really simple. It's like what I'm bringing in, like, and then I just subtract my taxes and all that stuff. And then I have my student loan payments and what I'm gonna need to contribute. Just make sure you're meeting that 401k match always, no matter what, like just free money. So
I still have student loans. I have car payments. I have insurance stuff. I have my dog I have to pay insurance for. I have a mortgage. I have all these things. Even if you make decent money, you have to put it down on paper to understand how much is going out and how much is coming in. And I have really good mentors for that. My husband is always making sure that I'm on top of that kind of stuff so that I have enough room in each of these buckets to not be in trouble. But I definitely think a financial plan, even if it's not the one used in that class, maybe just have an Excel sheet and put in every month how much is coming and going out. You have to have something. And I definitely do that. During undergrad, Professor Drabi was my 499 teacher. And he had this concept that I had never heard of before. It was lifestyle inflation. Just because you're going to be out of here making all this money, don't go buy this expensive car, this expensive this, because you're not going to have any money still. You're going to be making all this money, but you might not have it. And I never realized how real of a thing that was. Because once you're done with school, after your student loans, maybe a car payment, maybe rent, it's not as much in the end as you think if you're not planning. If you're planning, you can make anything work. But if you're not planning, it's very difficult to keep track of where everything's going.
The transition from a student to now as a salaried engineer, how are you managing like that? Some would be drawn towards big lifestyle changes, others are more cautious.
if you can, try and keep living at your old means and just pay off whatever you can. Stay in the same apartment maybe for another year or two and just use all of your extra money that you have now to pay off your student loans or your car, something like that. So that's what I did. I paid off my car right away because I had a pretty bad loan on it. Refinancing your loans too, that was really important. Now that I'm not a student anymore, I have more credit and my income is a lot higher, so I can find a better interest rate now. For me, it was a huge deal. I went from 11% to 4%. That's a huge difference. Now that you have more income and you can prove it, it's really crazy what a big difference it can make. If it's 4%, like you don't have to worry as much about paying it off like as soon as possible. You can invest instead some extra money, and the average is 8% a year for a broad market investment. There you go.
I was able to graduate with no debt or anything like that without even help from my parents or anything. So I'm really happy. I've just always been really good as far as being conservative with my money, only buying things that I really want. Or I think I'm just fortunate that I've had that good mindset. I think that comes from my parents. That's just because how they are. And now that I'm have a regular salary and, get paid regularly, I definitely have plans for investing in things of that nature. So I always make sure that I'm planning for those investments and those big purchases, they'll set me up financially. I've always just really wanted to travel. That's always, I love exploring new places. I love visiting, and I just plan on traveling a lot more. And I guess that ties into, I started kind of another account where every paycheck I just take money away so that I can go on my plan is to go on really big traveling trips for a few weeks, maybe backpacking, hiking, exploring, I don't know, Thailand or Europe. And I am definitely saving for that just to make sure, because it's going to be a big chunk of money, and I plan on traveling kind of on a budget. I don't need fancy hotels or anything, but even then, that's one thing I've definitely been doing is just, putting that money aside. So when the time comes, I have all that money already there where I feel confident about spending it. I don't feel bad about spending it. So I can just focus on doing what I enjoy.
I definitely had to calculate before I decided to accept my offer because I was thinking we're going through a pandemic. I need to see if I have enough money to get me through these 2 years. So I did some calculations and I figured that if I kept interning with them, I would have that leeway to potentially pursue a master's. And it is hurting me a bit financially. But I asked my company what happens if I get a master's. And for them specifically, if I come in with a master's, it counts as 2 years experience. So that means that I would automatically get a pay bump. So it would make up for these years that I wasn't with them. But they said that for them specifically, if I was getting it while I was working full time through their reimbursement program, I technically wouldn't get that pay bump. But then after some time, I would be considered more experienced, and then it would flow in later. So it kind of makes up for it.
Before the pandemic, I was living in the city. After each of us graduated, there was not really any need for us to live in the city anymore. So I moved back home. A lot of people have moved out of the cities during this time. It's been really weird, like not wanting to be near people. I have been working and making money while at the same time moving back home, saving a lot of money.
Being unemployed all summer, I didn't have a lot of money, so I kind of had to make it last. And I started just spending no money recently. After kind of considering retirement and savings, I'm basically not changing my lifestyle too much. I get Taco Bell a little bit more often than I used to. I'm not buying any, flashy cars or anything like that. I think this could be applied to most people with an engineering salary. It would be to max out whatever your company 401k match is. If you can max out a Roth IRA on top of that. A company 401k match, the company decides where that money is going to go for the investment. A Roth IRA, you can make that decision yourself in terms of how risky you want the investment to be or how safe you want it to be. It could change over time as you get closer to retirement. For a Roth IRA, it's money that you've already been taxed on, but you will not be taxed on it later. So if you're expecting to be in a higher tax bracket when you're retired, Roth IRA is very beneficial. You don't know where you'll be, right? So
yes,
you have to kind of mix in with the 401k where you don't get taxed now, you get taxed on it when you're retired and you're taking it out. So it's important to diversify. Those two things are the main savings methods in terms of retirement that you kind of just should do. Obviously, there's a lot of components into this and everyone's going to have to figure it out for themselves. I'd recommend looking into those two savings vessels.
I like to save to go to travel, so I'm used to saving already. And I don't really care to have like anything fancy. So if I want to, I could go buy a car right now. But well, do I really feel like paying $250 a month for parking and then also having to pay like car payments? I'll just take public transportation. I guess I don't really care about having like the super great things in life where it's very expensive. Save your money, start putting it into your 401k and all that. I'm going to start a Roth IRA. I will be starting that. It's kind of my goal too by January.
It was more along the side of the big lifestyle choices. So I did decide to get an apartment by myself, move out to wherever I needed to be for work, make those types of decisions. I know that had I decided to ease the transition over, it would have been a little bit better in terms of savings. I'm slowly getting back to the financial plan that I had set up for myself. So
the last module was the entrepreneurship or entrepreneurial mindset, all about taking measured risks, leading to innovative approaches to problems. They encourage this in any structured way, or if you've just seen it, somebody taking a risk on your project or a project you've seen and gotten some rewards out of it.
I love to tinker with things and build stuff, so I really want to save up for a workshop one day. I don't want to invest too much of my own, make it too much of a business where I rely on it, because then I feel like I won't like it as much and I'll just feel stressed and I won't be able to enjoy it. I don't know if Abbott would encourage it, but as long as it doesn't interfere with your work, they don't care. So there's a guy here who owns a brewery and he's very successful now, and
there's a lot of room to go in whatever direction in this company. If you push yourself in a certain direction, your boss will take notice and you can end up where you want to end up. Beyond that, my friend and I, we really want to get some capital and get a CNC machine, start making some money that way. That's kind of a goal, down the line, a few years down, it would be very cool to start, manufacturing your own products.
I do want to work a couple of years in a technical role, potentially transition into a leadership role. And I think that if I really enjoy that leadership role, I would like to potentially start my own little thing, whether it be in engineering or maybe something else as well, kind of like on the side.
I've asked a bunch of people how they've moved up just because I'm thinking maybe going into managerial positions if I don't like the technical side.
We have these kind of quarterly meetings, I suppose, as far as sales go and kind of the business outlook. And they raise these really good questions and they ask us as well, because, we interact with the customers on the regular. We're their direct point of contact. So I always think about those questions. They ask, how can we better improve our general business model? And they're really hard questions, actually, which obviously that's what they're asking them. But it's always on the back of my head. And I always try to think of, what else can I contribute as far as from the business standpoint? It just makes me more valuable if I can help in those sides as well. I'd be more than happy. But it's definitely very challenging approaching those kind of problems and questions. And the thing is since it's such technical product, it's hard for the salespeople to fully sell the product without knowing all the technicality of it or what the customer needs and all of those natures. So that's why they kind of ask our engineers to kind of help with that stuff. I think I'm fortunate where my close friends are also just as driven, if not maybe way more driven. And automatically that just completely drives my drive up because that's kind of what they want to talk about, just motivates you. So I would highly encourage you to just, try to be friends with those groups of people that are, have that same outlook.
Companies like mine love new approaches to things because they always want to be on the brink of technology and the brink of advancements. So things like innovative approaches, new ways of doing anything are highly encouraged and highly rewarded. When you talk about entrepreneurship outside of corporate world, my husband and I were always thinking of ideas or like, what would a cool business idea be? It's always something we're finding ways to talk about and think about and maybe do something ourselves, in the near future to have as a side business or a separate source of income. One of our best friends quit his job and he's a co-founder of a robotics company now. He actually graduated a year before me from the ME department. And now he's a co-founder of a robotics company because of a silly idea he had less than a year ago. You'll always see entrepreneurial aspects, whether it's within corporate or outside of corporate with startups and things like that.
They did have like a specific room where you were allowed to just come up with ideas experimentally. And they do have a forum where you can submit different proposals that you think would be worth investing into for the future. So definitely here at work, they do encourage the entrepreneurial mindset. Obviously, anything that you invent would be their property, but they do encourage you to kind of bring forth those ideas and make those proposals. And there are a lot of people, not particularly in my position because I'm very new, but there are people who have been here for a while that do that type of proposal work for the programs.
Rudy is a huge advocate of allowing the people who work for him to pursue their own projects, things that are interesting to them. Even the lab techs, he has them doing engineering level projects. For example, designing a VR application that allows customers and clients to digitally explore an industrial rig that we're trying to sell them. He is very welcoming of creative ideas that we come up with. He's very open to suggestions, and it's been really good to work under someone who's so encouraging of that.
Let's see, we've made it through the 5 modules. The audience here is nearing graduation. I was wondering if you could put yourself in your shoes when you were at that point, right before graduation. Is there anything, maybe many things about life now or about the transition you had to your current job that you didn't expect, maybe you wish you knew at that time, or the things that maybe are most influential now that you never have dreamed would be important back then?
One thing people don't understand that's really important in the workforce is just being enjoyable to be around, right? As a human being. In the hiring process, I think one of the main things they look at is, hey, do I want to see this guy every day, right? Even if you're the most smart engineer, if you're the most amazing technical stuff, but if you're not just kind of nice to be around, they're not going to want to hire you just for that simple reason, right? Everyone wants to have a nice community, people that enjoy working around. So I guess it's important to just kind of think about in the back of your head, being a fun person. Hopefully that makes sense, right? Because I think that's really important as well.
Interpersonal skills, professional development, working with people is definitely something that some engineers, should think about. It's very important to have positive relationships with not just the people you report to, but also to your colleagues. While working for Dr. Yarin, I became close friends with several of the graduate students there. And they're the ones who first told me about this opportunity with Dr. Mashayak. That was huge for me. I was beneath the graduate students as an undergrad, and now I have, many friends who are lab techs who I suppose are beneath me in the hierarchy of business. It's worth being friendly with your colleagues at all levels. And it's very important. And it's not really something that is taught in school outside of 499. After all the calculus classes and stuff, people can get through that and not necessarily be professionally minded. How can I build a good relationship with the people around me that will benefit both of us in the future? I've always made an effort to just be kind and polite to people. And, people are generally kind and polite back.
The importance of a network. I never realized how much we built without quite knowing. I think that COVID really highlighted that when I saw classmates relying potentially on their network to find a job, since not all industries were potentially affected the same way. So I never realized that the person that I'm sitting next to, that's already my network. Like, we do have quite a lot of resources. Remain positive and really, really rely on your network, because you've already built a strong network with all of your classmates.
Just know that school is a very valuable resource that you can use. If you're, dying to get into industry, that I think that's great. But there's also the option of staying in academia for, a couple more years and doing your master's. For example, a lot of my coworkers who did stay for their master's, they were automatically starting out in, a position above mine. When I was in school, I was very, very anxious to start working. Now that I've been doing it, I love it, but I also, I can understand that I shouldn't really have had that anxiety to get out there and to graduate so soon.
I never thought I would be working with all these molecular biology scientists. I never liked that stuff in school really, actually. And so, but I'm learning a lot about it now. So I never thought I would be really using MATLAB anymore, but here I am, analyzing all these huge scripts of code and stuff. So you need to have good communication skills. You're going to get emails. You need to be able to answer your phone well, like speak well, talk to people, portray ideas. Like a lot of the times in the field when engineers call us and they have issues, we need to tell them how to fix it. And sometimes it's a really complex fix. So we have to write it out really clear and concise for them so they can follow it. We actually write the procedures for these machines that customers use too. If it's like a doctor at some hospital using this machine, they need to be able to understand. So turning off that engineering switch of over explaining things in your head is really important, because they don't really care how every little detail of it works. So they just want it to work.
The students that are graduating this semester, like if they don't have like sharp soft skills, that might be something that you want to work on prior to going into a job if you can, or while you're applying. Just you could take, I'm sure LinkedIn Learning has some little videos you can watch. I went into my job talking to my supervisor saying like, I need to work on my presentation skills, because I can easily do it over like a Zoom call, but once we go back into the office and I have to meet with clients, like I'm going to struggle a bit because I get nervous. Definitely just finding out like your strengths and weaknesses with your soft skills. But I think even in job interviews, that's going to set you apart, because they're going to want people who have the technical experience, but they also want people that will get along with their team they already have. They don't want someone that's going to not connect with the team, and then it's going to be kind of like a little bit awkward. He was saying that when he interviews, he definitely like tries to get a sense of your personality to see if you would fit in. So I just think that's something that's good to keep in mind for your interviews. If you're coming out of college, like don't freak out, just be yourself. But like I threw finger guns at the person who interviewed me for my internship because I thought I completely bombed it already. So I was like, hey. And I mean, I still got it. So just be yourself and just show your personality.
I was unemployed for a really long time. Even with COVID, I guess I was hopeful, right, to get that job. I think it's just important to, keep your head on your shoulders and just take care of yourself. Over the summer, I, got to spend a lot of time with my girlfriend, got to ride my bike a lot, which is something I love. It would have been super easy to get sad with all these rejections and stuff. It's very important to just take care of yourself, know that your degree is worth a lot, and that people know that and they'll notice that. And just stuff takes time. And
everyone is going through this together. My professors have been very flexible last semester and this semester dealing with it. Everyone at my place of work has been very flexible. Everyone is going through the same thing. Just understand that if you need to, ask like, hey, this project at work in the future for you as a new graduate is not going well because of XYZ. You're dealing with another person. You are dealing with people at work. You're not dealing with a grading system or a rubric that's like set in stone. If you're honest and straightforward with whoever you're working with, people are generally understanding of that, and they're very appreciative of being honest and straightforward.
When you're stressed or you have anxiety, it's hard for someone to tell you, like, just don't be anxious, it'll get better, because they're not in your shoes. Like, you're always going to have that anxiety. But as long as you're persistent and you stay motivated and you don't just dwell in your room and watch TikToks all day. As long as you get out there, even go on walks and like think about what you want to do, as long as you're getting moving and trying to do things, you'll get to that next step where you can look back and go, oh, I was super anxious, but I did get a job. I did get a good job, and I am moving on with my life.
Where do you kind of see yourself in 5 years, and or maybe even longer? I always say short-term goals should be at 5 years, but you can have these like long-term visions or dreams. I don't know. What's your general outlook right now?
5 years from now, hopefully I would have found what I want to specialize in the workplace, because I do want to maybe start off with signal processing with my company, but they have us doing 3 rotations once we start off. So every year you have to rotate somewhere different, just so that you can be sure that whatever you studied in your bachelor's and your master's is truly what you want to work on for many years to come. So potentially like in 4 or 5 years, hopefully I would have completed graduate school, done all of my rotations, and finally found where I want to settle in.
Well, I definitely want to take the FE, so that's the first step, and then after that, take the PE. But I think the professional engineering license doesn't start until 3 years of experience. I'm hoping at that point, if I want to get into project managing, that I'll slowly be able to trickle into it. It sounds like I can already start getting in on emails to figure out if I want to step into that. If I don't like that and I don't like engineering, I'll most definitely be going back to get a PhD.
I think in the short term, I'd like to, if possible, go to school while working at the same time. I know that can be challenging, but I think if I manage my time well and, work hard during those years, I don't think our company has anything exactly like that. So that's a little unfortunate. I guess that was one of my goals, maybe find a company that would, pay for higher education or this or that. And, maybe I could convince, since it's a small company, if I could justify the cost, right? But I'm not sure. That's a good question. Yeah.
There's that actor, Matt McConaughey. He made this like acceptance speech where he always said like he sees himself in 5 years, someone that he's proud of right now. And I think that's a great way of thinking about it. Not always like saying like, oh, I want to be where they are, but in 5 years, I want to be someone that I'd be proud of right now. And I think that's a good way of approaching it. And that doesn't just involve school or work, but also family and everything. So me personally, at least started in an MBA program at the next level of my career, maybe with another income of maybe like a side business, maybe with a family as well. But I think just continuing to learn and continuing to push forward and have fun, aim for things that'll make you proud, not necessarily just with money in your career, but the whole picture.
The goal is to move towards like a management position. I think I would be a good person for that role. So that looks to, improve myself as an engineer at this company and do good work and stay creative, make them a lot of money, and hopefully they notice.
Right now, I'm very much in a technical role. So I think in probably 5 or 6 years, once I have more of that technical experience and more of that view of things from the low level, my goal is to transition into more of a high level view and get more into managing and being able to help others to kind of achieve their task and keeping teams on task. So I guess it would be transitioning from a technical role to more of a lead role or like a management role. They also support MBAs. They support Masters of Sciences, Masters in Business Administration. It would just depend on what the company needs are and what your goals are. So they do factor in if you do want to get into management, then they'll try to find you some skills, some opportunities to build those skills, and then eventually transition you over into a role where you are doing that.
I plan to move into the PhD program. It would be around the 2-year mark from when I started, 2 or 3 year mark, formally register as a PhD student. It's basically a double master's to get a PhD. You have to just do twice as many thesis hours and twice as many class hours, but it's just with one thesis. You're putting twice as much time into the one thesis as you would into the master's thesis. Double the class hours. The UIC offers a lot of graduate courses, so there's enough classes to take. It's just fulfilling those requirements.
You've shared a lot of advice and your experiences. Do you have any other pieces of advice or any last, words of wisdom for the graduating engineers that we haven't touched on?
It's such a pivotal time graduating from undergrads, but it's not make it or break it. Like you can change at any point of your life if you want to. I don't even think it's a path. The road to where you want to go, it's never a path, right? It's always meandering and it's always like going in directions you never would have expected. When I was in the student's position, I did not think I was going to be where I'm at right now. I didn't even know this job was available. I didn't know what my company did. I had never heard of my company take opportunities as they come and just say yes to a lot of stuff.
I know it's super easy when you're online to just look at memes all day. I definitely fell into that trap a little bit, but you kind of have to pull through for this last little bit and, get that degree. And if you do get an interview, tell them that you did school online, and tell them that you did a senior design project online. And they're going to be like, all right, yeah, he's probably better than all the engineers we have. If you tell the person interviewing you that you did a senior design project online and you have to figure that out, that holds a lot of weight in the interview process. And if you can come up with examples of how you dealt with issues that arose with that, they'll definitely enjoy hearing that. It'll make you look pretty good.
I know that obviously with the pandemic, it can be kind of rough as far as the job search, but the best thing is to keep trying and just not give up. Because I know I had some friends that, they kind of gave up for a period of time. They're like, I just stopped applying because there's no response to this. But you can't have that mindset, because, those other group of people that I'd say that were constantly applying, they did manage to, land interviews and potentially land a job as well. So even if, you're getting no responses, just keep doing it, keep applying. Just don't get discouraged, even though it might be easy to do so. And I know it really is. But if you don't apply, your chances go to zero. So just don't do that.
Don't be afraid to ask if you can be introduced to a potential connection who can help boost your leg up in the job search, or don't be afraid to ask for a recommendation, or don't be afraid of asking. So definitely the power of asking is a powerful thing. And I think that it can be definitely leveraged.
You're all going to be new graduates in a fantastic work environment. If you are dreading graduating into an environment where the economy is being held back by health epidemiological concerns, hold out hope, because it's going to be a fantastic time to be a new graduate in the work environment. I fully expect the economy, the working environment to return to even better than it was before all of this happened. So don't be too concerned about the future. A lot of people are very doom and gloom, and I don't think that you need to be that way.
This is a crazy time to be a student graduating nonetheless. So stay persistent, stay active, whether it's mentally or physically, and you guys are all going to end up finding something you love to do. Keep doing it. Keep being persistent and hardworking. It's not always about education and grades. Sometimes it's thinking of a new idea for a startup or a company and getting involved in your communities, or even outreach like this. So it's very awesome to be an engineer, guys, even if you don't want an engineering job. Elon Musk did say we need more smart people to be engineers. So you guys are all in a great area of engineering.
Okay, well, thanks again for taking your time to share your advice and experiences. I know for the students, the graduation upcoming, it's both exciting and nerve-wracking. It's exciting because it's a culmination of many years of hard work. Comes with a big life change, though, and can be anxiety inducing, as all the uncertainty associated with it. So I think your advice and hearing some about how you managed it, that can help ease the anxiety as they focus on their transition that's coming up. Thanks again very much. And we wish you all the best. And we're really happy that you're a UIC alum.
Sure.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, congrats, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on here.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Dr. Eckinger. Good luck, everybody.
Thank you. Let me know if there's anything else I can help with.
Thank you so much for calling.
Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks.
Okay.
All right. Take care.